Hi everyone, welcome back to the Purple Pumpkin. I'm Laura, and today I thought we'd talk about growing pumpkins and some of the problems that you might face when you decide to have a pumpkin patch or other squash plants as well, because they're pretty much all affected by the same things. So I might not cover everything that could go wrong with squash plants or pumpkin plants, but I'm going to go over some of the problems that I have personally dealt with and just what I do to deal with those things. And the very first thing I want to mention is just how on top of it you have to be. The most important thing you can do for your pumpkins is just to be present. To be checking on them every day, sometimes twice a day when it's really in the middle of the season and they really start getting going, because they grow fast. Problems can develop super quick, and when they do develop, they can get out of hand quickly. So personally, I just think the best thing you can do is just to be checking them at least every day, sometimes twice a day if you can. So the first thing we're going to have a look at here is some critter damage. This here was done by the groundhog that we have living, around our house. You can see how some of the leaves are missing. They usually eat the newest. I found that they usually eat the newest part of the plant because it's like softer. The leaves are softer. As the plant matures, they start to get really prickly, and it can be painful even to just touch them with your hands. So I don't think the groundhog or the deer really like chewing on those prickly ones. Here you can kind of see what I mean. We were away yesterday, so the groundhog definitely took advantage of that. Normally, I am home and I'm able to monitor her. So my number one tip for groundhog control is, again, just to be present if possible. I know a lot of people work, but that is the best way to control them, is just to be there and be on top of it. I work from home and I spend a lot of time in and out of the garden, so I'm able to observe what's going on. Luckily, I am usually able to catch her in the act and stop her. A lot of the time, she'll just eat whatever in the yard. So she'll eat weeds and everything, and I'll just watch her from the window. And then when I see her make a move towards the pumpkin plants or whatever else I don't want her to eat, I'll just give her a little yell out the window, and she just runs away. They're very skittish, so she scurries away, and that's the end of that. She usually will be gone for at least a few hours if she does come back at all. Now, I did put up that little makeshift garden fence thing just to kind of discourage her. It's more of a discouragement than a barrier. It's kind of like made like a little pen of the pumpkin patch, and they don't really want to be cornered, so she doesn't tend to go in there. Mostly she sticks to the outskirts. Obviously, if you have the means to build a fence, a proper one, that's an excellent way to keep out groundhogs. I believe you do have to dig it into the ground a few inches, though, so they won't just dig underneath the fence. And I know that some people have suggested trapping and relocating pests like a groundhog or another maybe rodent or whatever that's bothering you. This is not something that I am going to do. It's not something that I advocate for. I am an animal lover. I love animals, and I am happy to have the groundhog in my garden. And unfortunately, it is kind of a death sentence if you relocate them, because they are incredibly territorial and likely will be not able to find food in their new area, or will be eliminated by other animals in that area. So just mentioning, not trying to be a bummer, but that is not an option for me. Moving on. The next problem that I want to talk about is powdery mildew. This is something that is super common with pumpkin plants. Usually tends to happen later in the season, and often when there's a lot of moisture in the air. So what you're looking at here is you see these white spots that are on this plant. That is just the very beginning stages of powdery mildew. It's a fungal infection, mostly just affects the leaves, but it does spread quite rapidly. And if you're not on top of it, it could get out of control and pretty much just kill the plant. The way that I mostly deal with powdery mildew is I kind of try to let the plant outgrow it. So basically, when I see it starting like this, I'll clip the leaves off. Now, obviously, the plant needs leaves to produce chlorophyll and to continue growing into a nice big plant and making me a nice big pumpkin. But it doesn't need all of them. And pumpkins grow incredibly quickly. So basically, your powdery mildew tends to start towards the beginning of the plant, like closer to where the roots are. Whereas your nice fresh green leaves are going to be closer to the newest part of the plant, the end of the vine. So that part of the plant grows very fast. And I find that if I take off 3-4 leaves a day maybe that are affected by the powdery mildew to help it from spreading, that the plant itself will grow another 3 or 4 leaves a day to basically make up for that. So it's kind of a balancing act. You don't want to take off too many, but that's just personally how I deal with it. I find also that will help with some of the congestion of the leaves. So to stop the problem to begin with, having too much dampness around the leaves, if you increase the airflow, that's going to help as well. And there are certainly some DIY, mixtures and things you can spray on the leaves to help it from spreading. I haven't felt that necessary yet, but this is just how I deal with it. Now, I want to go back to just kind of my process for checking every day. So basically, I'll just come out, I'll look at the leaves and the flowers and see what's up. This leaf here, you can see, has some yellowing. So usually the first thing I do is I'm going to turn it over. If I don't see anything on the front, I'm going to turn it over and check it for bugs, check it for eggs. And I do see a couple of black spots on here that could be eggs. So I don't know where they're coming from, but I don't like that. So that is on my itinerary for elimination. And right over here in this pumpkin flower is a little cucumber beetle. These are definitely a problem in my garden. They're always here every morning pretty much, and I will pretty much just kill them also. I'm sorry. They're insects. They're eating my plants. I have no choice. So I take a pair of tweezers. I like to take a big long pair of tweezers. We have extra long ones because we have reptiles that we have in our house that we feed. So we happen to have extra long tweezers. So I like to use those, and I basically just squish these little guys. A lot of the time you will find them in yesterday's flowers. Pumpkins only open for a day. So the flowers that have kind of shriveled up from yesterday, a lot of the time they'll be in there. Usually there'll be more than one of them trying to procreate, and that is exactly what needs to stop. Luckily, having them in the raised bed, I can just kind of crouch down and look underneath all of the leaves that are on the pumpkin plants in the raised bed. I can do that there, but I can't really do that in the normal ground pumpkin patch. So I do go in here every day and I try to check as many leaves as I can. You can kind of see these ones look pretty good up front, so it's like I don't really feel the need to check each and every leaf. But if I see a problem, I'm going to head right for it, and I'm going to be flipping over leaves, looking for damage, looking for eggs, looking for bugs. Mostly in my garden, I deal with those little yellow stripy ones that I just showed you, those cucumber beetles. And then I also do have squash bugs as well. They have not been as bad this year, but I'm going to show you they have been around. So here I'm going to check these leaves over here. I know I found a little cluster of eggs, so I'll show that to you in a second. So when I find something like this, pretty much, I won't even take the whole leaf if it's not that bad. I'll just cut this piece off. I'll just take the eggs with me, and I will basically just drown them. I put them in a bucket of soapy water. Sometimes I'll take the whole leaf like I just did. Other times I'll just rip off the part that has the eggs. And I just soak that in soapy water. Don't have to worry about that ever again. I did come across a bit of a problem this morning. This corner over here is a little bit more susceptible to damage, and that does tend to happen. When something starts getting damaged, they'll be more attracted to it. So over here I found a big bunch of squash bugs. When I was going through my leaf checking, there were quite a few of them on this vine. I ended up pulling out one vine that was pretty small and shrivelly. But squash bugs are really easy to squash. So you can just squash them. My go-to for them is going to be diatomaceous earth. I'm out of it right now, but I will sprinkle that on the ground. Hopefully that will take care of it. It seems to have controlled them up to this point, so that is good. This is the first I'm seeing of squash bugs in my garden this year. It's kind of amazing. So I will sprinkle that on the ground. You do have to be careful with diatomaceous earth not to sprinkle it too high on the plant, because you don't want to affect any of your pollinators. You're just trying to kill your bad bugs. So that's how I deal with squash bugs. Is just staying on top of them, killing them, and using diatomaceous earth when necessary. And the last thing that I am having a problem with this year is something I haven't dealt with before, but I did talk about it a little bit in my last video, is a vine borer bug. This orangey bits that you can see kind of looks like sawdust right there at the crevice. That is a telltale sign of a vine borer bug. Now, what they do is basically they bore into the vine and they eat it from the inside out. So this debris that's coming out is kind of like the remnants of what they've done inside the vine. This is one of my first vines that I planted, so I've luckily gotten plenty of pumpkins off of it. You can see how the bug is kind of traveled down, and the damage is getting less and less as you move out from the beginning of the plant. So it's another one of those things where you're kind of trying to outrun the problem. I know that one of the solutions for this problem is kind of like a surgery. You can cut the vine open, slice it open, and look for it's actually the larval state of the bug. It would look like a little maggot or a worm inside the vine, and you would take it out, you would kill it, and then what you would do is take that vine and put it back in the ground and cover it up with dirt, with mud. That I can't really do that because I have these on the trellis. They're not in the ground, but that is one of the solutions for the vine borer. There really aren't that many other options other than to pull the vine, and hopefully you'll get the bug with it and eliminate that problem. So I have one of them in that vine over there, and then I did notice this morning You can see this one has some powdery mildew as well, but I did notice that this vine also is showing signs of the vine borer. These are the only two plants that I've noticed it on, so I'm not too worried about it. We're almost to the end of the season, and they are still producing pumpkins. So, I mean, pretty much all these problems are foliage-based, vine-based problems. As long as the plant is still making pumpkins for me, I'm not that worried about it. I just try to stay on top of these things so they don't get out of control, so they don't start spreading to possibly other plants, and that's how I deal with it. It can be very time consuming to grow pumpkins or squash, a lot of them, because they do take a lot of upkeep, but in my opinion, it's totally worth it. I love having homegrown pumpkins. It's like so amazing, and pumpkins can be super expensive when you buy them around Halloween time. So there's nothing like having one that you grew yourself. It's just like amazing. So anyway, those are pretty much all the problems that I deal with in my pumpkin patch so far. I'd love to hear if you guys are dealing with something different, or if maybe you learned something from this video. That would be amazing. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you are interested in this content. I really appreciate you all coming to view the videos. I am super excited for fall. Are you guys excited for fall? I am getting ready to replace, like kind of update all my containers on my little tiny porch to make them more fall themed. So I'm excited for that. I think I'm going to use some of my mini pumpkins in that, so I'm excited. And I just thank you again for coming, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!